What's going on, everybody? Josh McCarty and Stokes from Built in Buffalo. And today we are going to talk about Bills general manager Brandon Beane and whether he should be on the hot seat for the Buffalo Bills. Stokes, we both really enjoy having Big Baller Beane as our general manager. He has brought us some really cool players: Josh Allen, Von Miller, Stephon Diggs, and he's built this roster that was the favorite to win the Super Bowl at the beginning of last year. But some heat has come down on Brandon Beane this offseason when you start to look under the hood of the roster he has built underneath those superstars. Where do you fall on Brandon Beane?
I think that when you have a team, you want a GM that's going to take chances, and that's what Bean does. He takes chances on whether it's players or whether it's prospects. And you want a guy that, hey, I'm pushing my chips to the middle. We're trying to go for this thing, and he's the type of guy that tends to do that. But when you're a gambler, if you keep missing and missing and missing, it's like, okay, well, maybe the gambler is not exactly what we're looking for at that point.
They have not drafted a single Pro Bowler from 2019 through present. Now, Dawson Knox did end up making the Pro Bowl because enough tight ends backed out. And Dawson Knox has been a solid player, not really part of the conversation that works against Brandon Beane. But you look at some of the misses that happened, trading up for Cody Ford when they had an obvious wide receiver need, and DK Metcalf and AJ Brown are staring at them on the board. And then by getting Cody Ford in-house, forcing him and then Quentin Spain into the lineup, and then not having room for Wyatt Teller, who went on to go to Cleveland and turn into an all-pro. You saw a similar situation with Isaiah Hodgins last year. Couldn't even crack the roster, goes to New York, and arguably becomes their best, most consistent wide receiver. The Boogie Basham over Creed Humphrey situation is one that a lot of fans look at and point the finger at Beane. And I think one that's really starting to come into focus right now, Stokes, is Ed Oliver. I know it pains you and it pains me because he was a player we were both excited about. They picked him 9th overall at defensive tackle, and there are objectively 3 defensive tackles from that first round picked after Ed Oliver that are better than him, that are stars in this league, and that is a level that Ed Oliver hasn't gotten to.
Yeah, I think it wouldn't hurt as much if the other defensive tackles weren't great. And so like when you have the first round quarterback class where all 5 are bad, like, okay, well, even if we got the other guy, he'd have been bad too. But it's like, and Oliver, like he hasn't been terrible, but he hasn't excelled like the guys after him have been. So I feel like, when you got the guy that's just trying to draft people on the tools that he sees, um, it it's I'll make another gambling reference. It's like if you hit like a 5-team parlay as one of your first bets as a gambler, then you're gonna throw out a bunch of 5-team parlays right after that because I hit that one time with Josh Allen, so let's keep on trying to hit the same big long shot parlay, and that's where you can get yourself in a major hole. And not that he has put us in a position where we're in a major hole because we're still a favorite consistently, but at the same time, it's like with a little different selection here or there, like this team could be really dominant.
And when you start to look at some more of his draft picks, right now, the Bills are in a position where they are just begging for offensive support, whether it's on the offensive line or in the receiving group. Brandon Beane has made 19 offensive draft picks during his tenure as Buffalo Bills GM. Of those 19 players, 10 of them are either on a different team or out of the league completely. Now, look, there's some day 3 picks mixed in there. Some of those are dart throws, but 2 of Brandon Beane's day 2 offensive players are no longer on the team: Cody Ford and Zach Moss. He traded up for Cody Ford. And Stokes, I think we need to get this out there. Nobody bats 1,000 when it comes to the draft. The Kansas City Chiefs are right now considered the blueprint for success in the NFL. They drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire over Jonathan Taylor. They drafted Mecole Hardman over DK Metcalf. Nobody's perfect in the draft, and we certainly aren't expecting Brandon Beane to be perfect. And on the night he needed to be perfect, He got Josh Allen, and that will never be taken from his resume. But some of the misses are starting to add up. And I also want to talk about the mismanagement of the wide receiver group in 2022, because Stokes, we were on podcasts prior to the season looking at the wide receiver group, bringing up the fact that if an injury happens to Gabe Davis or Stephon Diggs, the only other receiver on the roster capable of playing boundary receiver was Jake Kumaro. And it just felt like mismanagement of a position group that's so important to a team that has Josh Allen.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like you value special teams so much that you put yourself in a really bad position. And then it hurts more when you see a guy like Isaiah Hodgins going out and excelling as he did, or as he did with the Giants. So it's the miss shots wouldn't be as glaring if the other shots weren't doing so well. So it's one of those situations where, like, how much rope does that Josh Allen pick give you? And when you think about, how it seems he is in such lockstep with both McDermott and Josh Allen, it feels like all three of them are just this package deal that's like, hey, we're just going to ride or die all together. And it makes you feel like that no matter what, as long as Josh is here, Beane's going to be here, and McDermott's going to be here, and it's like, is that enough? And that's where we have to figure out, because I don't know exactly whether Beane is going to change his philosophy, just because he's missed on a few, not a few, but quite a few picks. So what do we do as a fan base?
And I understand, like, you could go through any team in the league and say, oh, they should have picked this guy over that guy. Tom Brady fell to the 6th round, and you can make fun of every team at least 5 times for passing on him. But how different would Beane's track record look, Stokes, if they had just held on to Wyatt Teller and Isaiah Hodgins? How different would this team look right now if instead of the obvious hole they have at left guard and receiver, they had Wyatt Teller and Isaiah Hodgins, and they were right there? Beane picked them. So to answer the question of this video, is Brandon Beane on the hot seat? My answer is no. And it goes back to what you said about he and McDermott and Josh Allen being in lockstep. One lesson we can all learn from the drought: when you have a general manager and a head coach that aren't on the same page, it is almost impossible to make it work, because the second things start to go south, everybody starts trying to save their own jobs and throw each other under the bus. You saw it with Doug Whaley and Rex Ryan. You saw it with Doug Whaley and Doug Marrone. You saw it with Tom Donahoe and Greg Williams. You saw it with Tom Donahoe and then obviously Mike Mularkey leaving when Tom Donahoe left because he didn't trust Marv Levy. So the whole situation with general manager Brandon Beane being on the same page as Sean McDermott, plus Brandon Beane showing an ability to draft guys like Josh Allen, Tremaine Edmonds. He did draft Wyatt Teller. He drafted Isaiah Hodgins. He drafted Taron Johnson. There hasn't been all misses. He drafted Dawson Knox. Gabe Davis for a 4th-round pick has been a solid player.
Bruce.
I just need Brandon Beane, Stokes, to do some self-scouting and evaluate some of the things he does on draft day, aggressively trading up, not understanding that nobody knows how good these players are really going to be. So trading up may not be the move. And then obviously the one that really bothers me is the overspending on running backs. 3 day 2 picks on running backs in the last 4 drafts. And by all accounts, running back is still a need for the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I imagine there will be another draft selection on a running back this year. I just hope it's not early. I've seen a lot of people, as far as like fans go, wanting the Bills to go after Bijan Robinson. I really hope the Bills don't spend a 1st-round pick on a running back. And not that I don't love running backs, but I don't want that here. I just don't want that in this situation. But it seems like Beane has an MO as far as the early rounds go. He's going for a guy that is going to fit all the physical attributes, whether it's length or it's strength or whether the person is going to fill out. So I think that's what we would expect. But it's just a matter of whether that person hits or not. But in the end, yeah, I mean, I don't think that Bean is on the hot seat either. I mean, as you and I have mentioned, like everyone being on the same page is really, really important. And as long as they remain on the same page, I can't see them turning on one another. That there wouldn't be much of a reason for them to. And it's also going to come down to like Josh Allen has as much power as he can have in this situation. If he went into a situation where he didn't want someone or something on the team, like he has the power to change that. And I just don't feel like Josh Allen is the kind of guy that is going to want to push in either of those guys out.
Big offseason coming up for Brandon Beane. They need to hit on their draft. They need to figure out what's going on with a couple of their premier players with Jordan Poyer and Tremaine Edmonds. A big decision coming up on the future of Ed Oliver with this team. And this Bills team seems to be moving into the second wave of their build under Josh Allen and Sean McDermott. And it's going to be interesting to see what Brandon Beane can do to keep this team atop the preseason Super Bowl odds lists. But I have faith he'll be able to turn it around. Every general manager in the history of the sport has had bad drafts. He's had a couple bad, shaky ones in the last couple of years, but I don't think it's any reason to set the house on fire and start over. Let us know what you think in the comments. Should Brandon Beane be on the hot seat because of some of the misses he's had recently in the draft and some of the roster decisions he's made that have let some really effective players leave this Bills roster? And please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps us out. And we will see you next time on Built in Buffalo Quick Hits.